job with precision. Today we're going to show you how to do a VWK 111055, which is a vent window seal for a 55 to 59 full-size GM truck. On a scale of 1 to 5, this is about 4 or 5. It's one of the most difficult jobs you're going to have to do on this truck. The reason being, you need to remove the door panel, drop the glass, and remove all the glass runs and the belt lines just to get the vent window assembly out. So at this point, it's a good opportunity to replace all these parts as well. The tools you'll need for this job are a screwdriver set and a Weatherstrip Installation tool. We're going to get started now. The first thing we're going to need to do is remove these handles. And they're on there by a set screw. A straight slot screwdriver is all you're going to need. A set screw is right behind the actual handle here. You just need to loosen it up. And it's on. It should just pull right off. It's on with the splines. Same thing with this one. Put them off to the side. Next, we need to remove this door panel right here. There's 13 screws that hold it on. Go around the perimeter and then 2 on the side here. We are on to the last 2 screws here, and I'm holding the panel with my hip so it won't move or fall. Okay, all the screws are out. So the panel is just going to lift away from the door here. I want to do it carefully so you don't scratch anything. Next step, I reattach the window crank. I roll up the window slightly to get access to these 2 screws that's holding the glass onto the actual scissor mechanism. When I remove those screws, I'm going to remove this plate channel right here, noting the orientation. I'm going to roll down the window. That's going to allow me to drop the glass all the way down, providing access to the belt lines. Now I'm going to pick up on the glass. And slide this forward. Still want to hold on to the glass at this point so it doesn't crash to the bottom on you. Now we have the scissor mechanism all the way down. What I did is I pushed against the glass so it isn't hung up on the scissors lift anymore, and now carefully I'm going to let it down. Alright, now we have access to the belt line, and this is where the Weatherstrip Installation tool comes in really handy. It's nylon, so it's not going to scratch your paint. These are just friction fit, meaning they're just round pins that are holding into the actual metal door. So you take the end, kind of pry it loose here. He has some glue on here. You can start to see the round pins right here that hold it into the door. Make sure we clean all this extra silicone off before we put the new ones on. Now we can do the inner one. The inner is going to be held on the same way. As you can see, using this nylon stick is much better than trying to use anything with metal, so you don't damage your truck. See here, the problem is the clip starts to release from the actual belt line. That's what's giving us problems here, so you want to make sure you get behind the clip here, pry it out from the door. That's it. Now we have the belt line out of the way, we can remove the glass run. What you're going to need to do for this is there's two screws here holding this trim piece on, and there's should be two metal clips up here. So we just got to take out these screws. Now it's actually slid on. This one came off, but it should be slid right onto a channel here. And kind of lift it up. The trim piece is out of the way now, so you should be able to pull this down. He looks like he siliconed it down again. Now it's so old that the actual fabric is separating from the metal, which isn't that big of a deal. Pull her down here. So I kind of pull it this way a little bit, and I can pull up with it now. Now we're ready to take the vent window out. There's 4 screws up here, 2 here, and 2 here, and then 2 down there that all need to be removed in order to get this out. So we'll start with these. We're going to get started on replacing the weather strip on our 56 vent window assembly that we took out of the truck. Tools that you'll need are drill bits, 1/2-inch wrench, pliers, a punch, and a hammer. In order to get the weather strip out, you're going to have to drill out 3 rivets, the 2 here and one here. We're going to use a number 19 drill bit for that. And then there's a 1/2 inch nut here that you're going to have to take off in order to get this spring out. So we'll start by drilling out the rivets. Now we can start drilling out some rivets. Now we got the heads of the rivet drill off, we can just punch them out. Now we can move on to the next rivet. Now we need to drill the rivet right here on the top. The rivets are all removed now, so what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to move this a little bit. And what you need to do is slide this glass down out of the frame in order to get this pivot pin out, and be careful that you don't put a lot of stress on the frame in itself. And then once you get the pivot pin out, you can move the glass a few degrees and then you'll be able to slide this out. Let's get started here. So by pushing the glass away a little bit, not putting a lot of stress on the hinge right here or the bracket, I can push down with my fingers, pop that out. Now, we have to slide this out. You need to be careful with the orientation of these washers. If you put them in the wrong way, you won't be able to open or close your vent correctly later. You gotta be patient. Try not to put a lot of stress on the actual frame. Kind of use your fingers, push it out, then put the washers off to the side. Continue to push this out, and that's how you remove the glass. The last piece here is to remove the division bar seal. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 rivets. We're going to use the same number 9 drill bit and drill them out. Now this should come right out. And now we just got to punch the actual rivets back out. Now the glass is out of the way, you can pull out your old Weatherstrip. It's going to be pretty dried out. You want to be careful, you don't want to put a lot of stress on this. Once you get it started, it should just pull right out. Notice how I'm kind of supporting this with my hands, so I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it.
We're ready to reassemble the vent assembly here. We took the time to sandblast it and paint it all up real nice. And notice that we have a rivet back in here for right now, just to temporarily hold it together. We'll have to drill it out later to put the glass back in. But we put it here to help stabilize this part of it while we actually put the gasket back in. You'll need a Weatherstrip installation tool for this. It'll help being nylon. You don't want metal as you try to work this gasket into the channel here. And you may need some glass cleaner, a foaming glass cleaner that helps lubricate the rubber to slide in if you have a really tight channel. You want to start on one end. We'll start on the bottom end here. The way this goes in is you have your metal channel here and then the gasket here that hooks around it. So what you want to do is get the metal channel right in this groove here, and then come back with a Weatherstrip installation tool and actually push this down so you're in here like this, and then you're pushing this in to lock it in, and you'll see how far this metal channel has to go right there. So I'm pushing it in on the back side here. And I'll come back, take tool and push it in. It's going to take some effort to get it started. And you'll know when it goes in, you'll be able to see it like right there starting to go in, and then you just keep going all the way around. I want to make sure it's seated all the way in. Do a little bit at a time, and you'll see how it's locked in there now. So it's locked into this metal channel here, and you just keep working your way around a little bit at a time. Keep attention to the hole in the gasket right there. Is going to line up to the pivot point for the actual frame for the glass. So if that's not lined up, then you either have to push it back that way or adjust it so that hole lines up properly. And the corners are the trickiest part. That'd be a good idea. Just kind of pull on this flap with your finger here, just to make sure it's in there all the way as you go along. Alright, we're about 2/3, 3/4 of the way in. We have all this in up to here. And we stopped here, and I'm going to put the end in here and then work backwards to make sure that I'm not stretching it when I put it in and I end up with too much or too little at the end. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to hook it onto the one side. And once again, this part has to go right there, so you will have to compress this a little bit because it's going to fit tight. Glass cleaner, what you could do if you want is once you have it hooked in on the one side like this, you put a little glass cleaner, foaming glass cleaner, or even soapy water along this edge here. Then it'll help you slip it in if you need to. And this particular vent is going in pretty good, so I'm not going to do that at all. And your pivot hole for the top of the windshield or the glass right here, and it should line up with the hole in the gasket. If not, you have to adjust one way or the other. We're on the last corner here, and this is where it may get a little more tricky. So you want to make sure that the opposite end here is actually hooked in, and being the corner, you may have to push it back in a little bit. So I'm pressing down and into the channel. Now that we got it all in, we can go on to the next step. Alright, we're going to get started by putting the division post section back in. For that, you're going to need some rivets, and we're using 5/32 diameter rivets that have a grip range of 5/32 to 1/4 inch. You need to note the orientation. If you have the other side, it'll work well to look at. But this section here goes toward the inside of the vehicle, and you can tell that obviously by the striker plate. So once you remember the orientation of the division bar, you want this part to go behind the rubber flap here, like this. And then in order to get it in, you're going to have to bend it up a little bit, and that'll be okay. And then push it in like that, and then you can do the rivets. But what we're going to do is put the rivets in first and then put this back in. We're going to put the rivets in, and you notice you got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, and we're going to actually get the rivets started in the division post seal here before we put it in there. It's just a little easier. Okay, now that we got the rivets started, we're going to put it back in like we showed you. So we're going to pull this flap out. Same thing, kind of bend it up. Going to make sure they line up. Now we got all the rivets in, everything's lined up, we can go ahead and actually rivet the division post seal in. Okay, we drill out the rivet that was temporarily holding it together. Now we're going to put the glass in. And we took the time to take the glass out and refurbish the actual metal frame. Now the original glass that was in here was broken, so we highly suggest you go to your local glass shop and have them put the glass in. They're going to have the bending compound, all the tools they need, and the experience to put this glass back into the frame without damaging the frame. So what you want to do is put it in the opposite way you took it out, obviously. So you got to start by putting the pivot point through the holes here. Remember your washers. You want to go kind of slow, and when it starts coming through, you want to put these back on. And you notice the shaft is somewhat rectangle, so they only go on a certain way. Well, the gasket here is going to be really tight, so you just got to go slow. You want to kind of support it with your hand here. You just don't want to start pushing because there's only one rivet up in the top holding it together, so you don't want to put so much stress on that you break that rivet. Okay, we got it seated all the way. There's actually a groove in the pivot arm that only lets it go into the frame so far. So now we're back to having to rotate the whole frame out like this because we got to get this pivot joint back up in here. Working it up here. And there's going to be a little bit of a bump right there that you're going to have to push a little bit more that way to get it in. You want to make sure the glass is on the correct side. You see there's a little bit of gap, so we're not quite in the right way. And you have to realize that these rivet holes here need to all line up, so keep working it so where you have the holes back here lining up and everything's lined up. I'm going to go ahead and put the spring back on. You just gotta get this snugged up, not super tight. We're gonna do some final adjustments later. Now what we have to do is get back to lining up these two holes to these two holes. We're gonna use a 1/8 inch grip rivet here. Now the frame is gonna be a little out of square from being handled, putting the seal back in, so you just push down on it and you get the rivet to line up here. Work it back down. Rivet in here. Okay, last rivet we have to put up here. Same size rivet with a 1/8 inch grip range. Now we'll close it up and then do a final adjustment. With this spring here, you want it tight, but you don't want it so tight where that you can't turn the actual window. And being a new gasket, it's going to be tight. And what's bad about these old style vents is that there's a actual, like the pivot thing that we put back in here is actually all worn out, so it actually allows for a lot of lateral movement, which makes it more difficult lining up everything. All right, now we got the glass set in, handles up. You just need to get this the right tension and set that by how hard it is to close it and open the window. You want it kind of tight, but not real too tight. So we did some testing. So now what you need to do is just bend these tabs back. Take the pliers. That done. We're going to finish up the refurbishing of the vent window assembly out of our 56 GM pickup. We're going to put in a DRP 121155. It's basically felt with adhesive backing, and it goes in the channel right here. Next step is we start to peel off the center section of the liner. You want to peel it all off. Then what you want to do is bend it in half, and then it allows you to make contact in the center part of the channel here. You want to kind of get it centered the best you can without touching the sides. And then just work your way down. And you'll notice that the piece is actually shorter than the actual channel, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. I got behind on my liner here. Push down with your fingers a little bit. And what you need to do is come back and take one side off at a time. Once again, kind of peel a little bit at a time. Then get it, press it against the side here. Just keep pulling it down. Go back and do the other side. So this is again where you want to make sure that this is level here, and what we can do is just kind of push it down and then push it on the side. What I'm doing with the Weatherstrip installation tools, I'm making sure that it's seated into the corner, thereby allowing me to adjust and making sure it's flush right here. Then what you want to do is kind of go over it with your fingers or the tool here and just make sure that it's seated all the way down. And you make good contact to wet out the adhesive film. Alright, we're going to put the vent window assembly back in the door. You'll notice we just kind of taped off the door edge. Make sure you protect the paint when you start putting stuff back in. So we're going to put it in exactly the opposite way we took it out. Alright, so we have to turn the bracket, put it in here. Be careful you don't scratch any paint. And once you get in there, you can turn it. Carefully slide it in. Again, being careful when you put everything next to the new paint. Now we got it kind of lined up where we want it. Now we need to put the door glass back into the channels, and that's why I have Greg here to help me. Now what we need to do is actually tilt the vent window. It's not screwed in or anything, and we're going to tilt it this way so the bottom part of the glass channel goes forward, and that's going to allow us to put the glass back in. As you remember, we actually dropped the glass, so this is sitting in the door right now. That should give us enough room to actually put it back into the channel. Greg can turn it for me, and this is the tricky part. Okay, so now you notice I got it up a little higher here, so now I can roll up the door. Now I just have it sitting on the actual wheels on the mechanism, because we need to put the bracket back in that attaches the door glass, the actual door mechanism here. And there's only one way that it goes in. So what you want to kind of do is remember to line up the bolt holes to what's in the door, because if you have it this way, it's not going to work. It needs to go this way. So as Greg lifts it up here, I'm going to put this in, and this track right here, there's wheels right here that it has to slide on. Slide on the back one first, and then the front one. And then Greg can go ahead and drop the glass down slow. And you can see we're going to make sure it goes in the right spot. Keep going, you're almost there. Alright. Now, we can put the bolts back in. You want to slide the glass a little your way forward, Greg. There you go. You can only really do one at a time because of the way the scissors is, so we're going to do the back one because I can get access to it here. Now in order to get access to this one, I want to come up a little bit. Okay, now we got the window attached to the mechanism. We can go ahead and roll it down so we can finish up putting the vent in. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws here to put in, and 2 down here. Now I'm just getting about halfway in, that way it allows me some adjustability as I put the rest of them in. Okay, now I got it in, I can just finish tightening these up, but I'm going to put these in down here first. You may have to adjust the frame a little bit here for the holes to line up. We're going to put the glass run in now. And what you need to do is you're going to have to put it into the door all the way down into the channel, and then do the bend and mark it here and then cut it, because our piece is actually a little longer than it should be to allow for any variations. So we're going to do that. So where an extra set of hands come in, nice. Craig's holding the flashlight for me so I can see the channel that this needs to go into next to the glass. You know, get a low resistance as you get to where the glass and the channel are meeting, but it's pushed beyond that. And push until you get to the stop. And you can't push anymore. There's a stop at the bottom of the channel. Okay, we need to actually start making this radius and have it stop here. So you need to kind of bend it, hold it with your thumb, push it in here, and then bend it kind of slow so it doesn't buckle. Kind of hold it a little bit. It's going to take a while to get this, because what we're going to do is going to get it to here and then mark it, and then we can cut it. Back. Now we're just doing this to measure it. And now you can use a hacksaw, a cut-off saw, and we'll cut that. We'll remove it and then cut it. Alright, we cut it off our marked length and put it back in the door. In order to make this corner, you just kind of start bending it slowly and getting that good radius in there. Now once you got it in, you need to put the trim piece back on here. Now it's important to remember these clips right here, because they're going to go into here and help hold everything together. And this is another part where you want to be real careful not to scratch your paint. Okay, I got this screw in, this kind of help pull it in, so I'm going to put it loosely in. And I got the clip to snap in. You'll hear it when it snaps in, and it's going to hold it tight. I'm going to put this one in. Up the window here. By rolling up the window, it's going to help seat all of this into where it needs to go. I'll go back and do a little final adjustments here. Now we're going to go ahead and install the belt lines. You need to be aware that the point on here is very sharp. You know, you can poke yourself, scratch your paint. And these are friction fit pins that fit in the holes here. And what you need to do is this needs to go behind the glass run. And what I've done is taken the Weatherstrip Installation tool. It kind of went like this, pried it so it's got some room. And once we get everything put together, we can go back and the glass will actually spread that apart and they get a nice tight fit on the glass. So be aware of the edge. Slide it back here. And now the glass is in, so you're going to have to come in at an angle like this and then get it behind the glass, and then this will pop in. You want to kind of make sure that everything lines up before you start pushing everything down. We'll take our Weatherstrip Installation tool, help us rotate the part.
And you don't want to use anything metal when you're doing this. Just use like plastic tool like this. You'll hear that solid click when it pops in. This one's a little bit off, so we need to, some of the clips will allow you to move it a little bit laterally. We're going to put the inner belt line on. It's basically the same as the outer. We want to slide it behind the glass run that we kind of moved over, and then line up the clips and push them in. Take the Weatherstrip Installation tool here and kind of push down on these rivets to get them to rotate. Now we got the belt lines in. We want to come back to our glass run and how we kind of squeezed it together. We just want to form it back out. So you just take a Weatherstrip tool here, kind of bend it back out, kind of open it up a little bit, and then roll the window up here. You'll see how it's nice and tight fitting right here, and that's what you want. And you're done. Last step is to put the door panel on. Kind of reverse order what you did it when you took it off. Things you need to be careful of are on this particular one, the armrest here has 2 bolts that need to line up right here, and that'll keep you need to line those up, otherwise it's not going to pop on correctly. So you want to start with the back and get over the latch here and come this way. We'll start that screw there. We'll kind of start here and work our way that way. This one's actually damaged, so we're gonna have to skip that one. Next, we'll put the door handle on. You want to pay attention to the orientation so you're pulling it the right way. Kind of look at the other door, but normally they're going to go kind of point it down like that. You want to make sure you push it all the way on so that your set screw actually gets into this channel on your spindle. Let's go ahead and tighten it up here. Be good. Now I'll do the same with the window crank. You kind of want to feel where you want it when it's in the up position, the window. So we're going to go back like this. Once again, push it all the way on. And tighten your set screw. And you're done. We hope you found this video informative. Follow us on Facebook or via Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of our latest videos. And remember to ask for the precision product from your favorite auto parts supplier.